Hello and good morning, benvenuti, bentornati. Welcome back to Urban Yoga Homestead. My name is Giulia, io sono Giulia, and I am delighted to have you here with me today. I'm quite excited for the most part because we are in the process of moving overseas. We are moving from South Africa to Italy, and if you'd like to know a little bit more about what our process is at the moment, I'll leave a few links down in the description for you. But essentially, we're in the last phases where I'll be moving to Italy and my husband will be following me there shortly. So here in this video, I thought we could just chat a little bit about what it means to have chronic illness and moving overseas. How is that affected? And, what one can do to try and combat some of the issues that you face. So from my side, I have a chronic illness called Syringomyelia, and it affects my central nervous system. See, brain fog already. So it affects that, and it causes a multitude of symptoms, which include spasms, involuntary reactions. For the most part, I deal with chronic pain, particularly around my joints, and particularly on the right side of my body. I get spasms when I'm stressed, and I also I think it's kind of like overheating. When I get emotional, my body completely overheats, and so things like crying and getting too excited is something I try and not do. But obviously, moving is one of the most stressful things that people can do. It can be extremely stressful. I've moved a number of times, not as much as my husband has, but I've moved a number of times, and I've moved a number of times between countries. It's never easy. You always have to leave some things behind and make some hard decisions, and stuff always costs more than what you initially budgeted. So I wanted to get into this video. I wanted to just jump into what are the things that I have to manage on a daily basis in terms of my pain and my symptoms, and how that is exacerbated by the moving, and how then I can actually combat them. What do I do to try and deal with the increase in symptoms? So the main thing for me is chronic pain. I have to deal with chronic pain constantly. It's chronic. So my right hip, my right shoulder, my back, my right leg in general, it's pretty much always in pain. My feet are always in pain. I can't say what kind of pain it is. It's honestly just like a generalized pain, and it's just there. My hip is a lot tighter than the rest of my body, so it feels difficult to move the joints, and sometimes if I move incorrectly, I can hurt my hip quite a bit, and my leg, and then that pain can go up into my back, which can affect my walking. So this is something that is particularly important to note for traveling, because if you can't walk fast enough to get to the airplane, if you have to do a stopover, for example, it's not going to help anyone. So you have to take some kind of precaution, which is early check-in, make sure that you have priority boarding, make sure that you can make it in the distance that is available. So with that chronic pain that I have constantly, I know for a fact that I just can't walk fast enough to get through an airport and passport control to get to the next terminal in 2.5 hours. It's just not something that my body will be able to do if there's a delay. I won't be able to just run with lots of things on my back, and even if I do, I will cause a lot of damage, and that damage is no bueno, let's put it that way. So aside from the chronic pain that I have to deal with, which, in terms of sleeping, how you sleep, and all of that affects the chronic pain. So just being on the airplane in a seated position for over 10 hours is going to be very uncomfortable. And luckily I'm a short person, so I can move around. I often let the flight attendants know that I do have a chronic illness, and if I'm standing up and walking around, it's only because I need to stretch the muscles, and if I don't, it can cause quite a bit of pain. And it almost feels like the muscle kind of atrophies in a way, like you get a lot of weakness. So if it's not used, the weakness kind of compounds very quickly over a few hours. If you've ever had a nose piercing, you'll know that panic if you've lost a nose ring. It just closes really fast. So there's that aspect. Like I said, it's the pain that you've got to manage, and I try not to manage it with painkillers, but I do keep them for in case, particularly if I get a big spasm and I can't move properly, or the pain is so severe that it's causing me dizziness. Then I will probably use some painkillers. Otherwise, I try to stick to my cannabis use, because the side effects of cannabis is just far less than it is with other medications. That's really my big pull. I don't see any medicine as a miracle, but I do see it as a tool, and I try to use each tool to the best of my abilities that works with my situation. And so, I will be relying quite heavily on the cannabis that I would have consumed prior to the flight, but and also then having enough rest time and stops in between, and getting priority boarding so I don't have to rush my muscles in any way. The other side, so as I was saying, not only for the chronic pain, but there's another side to it, and that other side is the nausea that I feel when I wake up. So every morning when I wake up, I'm a bit nauseous, some mornings more than others, and in situations where I'm quite stressed and there's a lot going on, I tend to throw up a lot more. I have a permanent nasal drip, which causes quite a bit of mucus to go down, into my stomach as well as my chest area, and this in itself causes a lot of nausea, accompanied with my pain that causes the dizziness and the nausea as well. So I actually do vomit a lot. So having access to, vomit bags, the bathroom, that kind of stuff, making sure it is available, and you have, multiple vomit bags, for example, and you have toilet paper with you, or tissues of some kind, wet wipes even. These are important things that I have to keep in mind while traveling. Prior to traveling, with the stress of actually moving overseas, at the moment being at home, it's a bit easier to manage, pain and nausea, because I work from home as well, which is something I'm very grateful for. I work with some pretty cool people, and I'm able to, take a few minutes extra, or even an hour extra in the morning if I'm having that nausea, if I'm having those problems. So, it's a bit easier to manage at home, but I have had an increase of the nausea, an increase of the vomiting. So I'm vomiting more frequently, every second to third day, instead of 2 to 3 times a week. What I've got to keep in mind there is that vomiting can disturb your appetite, and it can also cause severe dehydration if you're not careful. So I keep trying to drink water. I'm making sure that I'm drinking water. I hadn't had enough recently, so I'm trying to increase my water content so I don't get dehydrated from the vomiting, and making sure that I'm still eating, even if it's little bits at a time, but pushing through that pain and pushing through that difficulty that vomiting brings forth, because it causes a lot of cramping in your stomach, and to eat it really hurts, but you got to push through that. I push through it, and I feel better every single time. If you allow something like that to take hold, eventually you'll get so dizzy and so out of it that you won't be able to take care of yourself, and even just drinking a bit of water will be painful. In this case, you would have to go to emergency, and so, to avoid that, you just take these precautionary measures. Make sure you're eating really well, and the reason also you make sure that you're eating really well is because my blood sugar levels drop quite often, and that's not because I have a sugar problem, but because of the pain. The pain that I'm in constantly causes me to, kind of default. It drains a lot of the energy. If you know anything about the spoon theory, it's essentially that. Most people have like 10 spoons, and I guess I have 5, and they're all broken. Think of it that way. And each spoon equates to the amount of energy that you have to expend in a day. It's a lot to work around. Are you Sifu? Oh, I got Sifu back here. Yeah. Joining me for my morning rant. But in all seriousness, these are difficulties that I do face. So I've got the nausea and I've got the dizziness, and then I have these sporadic moments of spasms or even vocal outbursts, which typically happen when I'm relaxing, when the muscles are relaxing, so they don't affect my everyday life, but they have increased. So the more stress I'm feeling during the day, trying to get my work done, trying to get all of the paperwork done for our immigration, it increases these spasms as I'm relaxing, and those in themselves cause a lot of pain and stress on the muscles. So it tenses up the muscles and like whips my head around, so it causes a lot of pain and stress in my neck, and then that increases the pain of the next day. So it becomes this vicious cycle of just feeling terrible and certain things just making other things feel worse. I would say those are my 3 main categories. I do have other symptoms which I'm not going to share right now because I don't think it's necessarily relevant, and some of them are just a little bit too personal to share on a public platform. But if you do have any questions or you'd like me to go a little bit more in depth about my symptoms, I'd be happy to do a video on it exclusively and share more about syringomyelia from my... Ow! Sorry about that, my cat, or a mooncake, decided just to bite my arm for some reason. And anyway, cats, right? So what I was actually saying, yeah, if you want me to, if you'd like me to do a video that's just on syringomyelia and the symptoms that I experience, I have idiopathic syringomyelia, so that that means that the cause hasn't been found. I will leave a link or links down below to videos that explain it a bit more, and if you have more questions you can let me know. But if you specifically have questions about moving or specific problems that you're dealing with that I haven't really spoken about here, please let me know as well. So I also just wanted to add a little bit about what I'm doing to combat the stress. I try to make sure that my routine is the same, having a routine that sets certain boundaries, such as waking up at a certain time, going to bed around the same time, having your meals sort of around the same time, or at least when you start feeling hungry, close to those meal times. These are important things that I do. I also, if I feel like eating more than what I thought I'd be eating that day, then I do, because some days I eat a bit less, because it's hard to eat when you have constant nausea and brain fog. I'm sure many of you are aware of that. And in terms of the nausea, I really can't do anything to stop the nausea from happening, to stop the vomiting from happening. So I try to just stay relaxed, and if it happens, I allow it to happen, and I sort of just take a moment, and then I will, probably smoke a little bit of cannabis because that helps to settle the stomach, and then either have a coffee or a tea. I'm not too sure why those help, and it's not instant coffee. I actually do grind beans. Instant coffee causes tremendous amounts of pain in my stomach if I use it regularly, so it's only ground up beans that we use the maca for, and that seems to help settle my stomach. And as long as I don't eat anything first thing in the morning, and I only eat a bit later, so I sometimes only have breakfast between 10 and 11, or my stomach holds out until lunchtime. So I try to have a connected relationship with my stomach, if I can put it that way. Be quite aware of what is happening and what its needs are, so I can anticipate what to do next. I don't necessarily have specific triggers or anything. It's really when I wake up in the morning, then it's like quite a bit of stuffiness in the front, brain fog, and my chest is often quite sore, so if I do cough a lot, then I will vomit as well. But it's only in the morning when I wake up, and it typically lasts for an hour to 2 hours at most. If it goes beyond that, then my body is really not doing well, and I have to take the day to rest. And that's really important. No matter what you have to get done, unless it's absolutely urgent, take that time to rest, even if it's just 20 minutes on the couch or on your bed, or watching a video or something. Take time to step out of it and allow your body to relax. You're not going to be able to deal with things if you're constantly punishing your body. Able-bodied people struggle with stress, they have burnout, they have all of these things. And when you are not in that situation, and you are disabled, which is not a bad thing, it just means you need to acknowledge your limits in a different way and work within those limits and see how you can make yourself productive. So for me, working from home and not having to drive or take transport to work every day, it changed my life quite dramatically, because I didn't have the stress of public transport or driving on my body, of traffic and peak hours, all of that, on top of then the work as well. And you lose 2 to 4 hours in a day with the commuting. So for me, working from home, working for myself, is a much better option, and I was able to make that happen. So I definitely suggest seeing how you can adapt your life, because it's not easy for everyone. Some people have to go into office or into whatever work they do. So see what you can do to better your life and make your routine better for you, because it's not going to be the same for everyone. Some people like to do intermittent sleeping, for example, and that works really well for them and helps them manage their brain fog. So look into different options and what there are for your symptoms. And so then on top of all of this, I'm saying on top way too much in this video, I then also try and take time every night to rest. So I try to take time to sit with my husband, we have dinner, and just rest before going to bed. So there's no going to bed with all the huffy, stressed feelings. It's all relaxed and calm down, all the spasms have done their thing, and then go to bed, wake up at the same time, and follow the same routine. And that's really what's keeping me going at the moment. The biggest struggle is going to come when we are in Italy, or when I'm in Italy and the routine is different. So I'm going to try and stick to the routine in Italy to the best of my abilities within the confounds that we have in whatever apartment we're going to live in. And yeah, that's basically the plan. It's just to try and keep the routine same, because after the travel, there's a lot of paperwork that needs to be done pretty much from the first week. So there's going to be very little chance to actually rest, and helping in that would be to keep the routine the same. So luckily, there is no difference in terms of time, or no real significant difference in terms of time, so I won't have to deal with jet lag. But anyone coming, from the other sides, they'll be having to deal with jet lag as well, and I would factor in a few days for that, allow you at least a day or two to adjust. But yeah, that's basically what it's like at the moment, dealing with all of the symptoms that are basically compounded. Essentially, it's all just compounded, and trying to stay calm through it all. Don't panic. That's the big thing. Don't panic, stay calm, and you'll get through it. And prepare, plan. Obviously you can't plan until you're blue in the face, but make sure you've got at least a guideline of a plan going forward, and you can look at that and check off milestones, which will also help lessen stress in general. So yeah, that's me in the moment, moving overseas with a chronic illness, with chronic pain. It's not super easy, and I think at the moment the least amount of stress is happening to my body. But once I'm in a new environment and have to find new ways of feeling confident and feeling safe, which is important, I think that's where the biggest issues and problems are actually going to show up. So I will do another video when I land and tell everyone about what it's been like trying to adjust to a new environment. So yeah, that is everything for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and do ask any questions that you have down in the comments. I'll leave links to a bunch of videos that you can check out to find out a bit more information about my Syringomyelia or our plans going forward. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Alla prossima. Ciao!